Fulbright Teachers Fellow program, fellow exchange, in which teachers from the States come to observe teachers in different parts of the world, from Morocco, Uruguay, India. Today, I want to talk to you about just my experience thus far being in classrooms to go observe. Today is actually the day where I go observe one school, and I participate in one school for the next 5 or 6 days. The last few days, we've been observing different schools. So yesterday, we went to a public school that was owned and overseen or supervised by a church, Methodist church, I believe. And then the day before that, I think Monday or Tuesday, we went to a low-cost private school. First and foremost, it has been a awe-inspiring time here for me just to be a Black person in a predominantly Black space, which is different than being in your Atlantas, your DCs, like those are chocolate cities, but being in Africa obviously is no comparison. And so I'm still wrapping my head around that and making sense of just what, I think about history, I think about culture, I think about language. All these things are swirling in my head as I look into the eyes of these young people. I told my colleagues, my fellow teacher, Fulbright fellows, that it, first and foremost, again, I work in a predominantly white school currently in San Francisco. So that's obviously different. But I grew up with Black folks, as a kid. So looking into the eyes of these young people, I felt like I knew them. I feel like you could overlay American accents, American clothes over them, and those would be my students. Like those would be the kids I'd see on the train. Not my current students, but those would be kids I know. And what's really different again is the language and culture, but I keep coming back to this word familiarity. And I keep coming back to the word familiarity, fellowship, and family. In that it's like seeing your long lost cousin when you're here in Africa. And obviously, I'm a tourist, I'm a guest, and people are being very friendly to me and welcoming to me. But I think even further than that, they're just welcoming people. That's how I felt. Sure, life doesn't look like it does in the States, right? You got people selling stuff on the streets, selling stuff on the highways. You got women with these giant carts on their head. You got brothers who get this close to the window to try to sell you something. But then at the end of the day, they always wink and smile at me and they wave, and there's just this acknowledgement. And I love that culture of respect, that culture of acknowledgement and just hello, greetings, recognition. Not to say we don't have that in the States, but it's different. If you were not raised to speak to your people, right? I was raised in the South, so hospitality is a thing. And it's similarly here where you say hi, you greet your folks, you greet the workers, you greet the janitors, you just say good morning, hello, how are you? Anyway, being at the schools, I know you're probably wondering, you're going to tell us about what actually happened. Well, here's what happened. We went to the different classrooms. We got to see different age groups in their classroom, different teaching practices. On the teacher side of things, did I see anything that was brand new? No, I do call and response. We have music. We have a rhythm to our class. So a lot of things look very familiar in my classroom. However, I think what was different is just the cultural context is different, the values are different, and the sense of community is very different. This is like backdrops. Culturally, America's individualistic, very individual driven, versus here it's very communal. The schools are literally in very intimate community spaces where you look across, you can see an 8th grader if you're a 1st grader, and then they have big breaks where everybody gets to come and see each other and interact. And I think it does something for a kid to be a big kid and you see a little one. Kids act differently in that they take care of their own. Don't get me wrong, my seniors see the freshmen, but it's not the same level of care given to the freshmen, right? There's not that same sibling mentor atmosphere versus here, 2 schools I've seen, caveat, I've only seen 2 schools. There has been a really strong sense of community, a really strong sense of fellowship. And part of that, again, is culture, the structure of the school. They do have their religion to kind of help provide some accountability structures and some moral moral references in terms of what to do and what not to do. For example, I walked into a first grade class and they were teaching a verse from Proverbs about being a kind person. So there's a lot of explicit, at least in the two schools, or the school I was at yesterday, there's a lot of explicit religious teaching and instruction. Granted, I work at a Catholic school too. Now, as a black male educator, and I spoke to every black man I've come across on both these campuses, and being a black man in the classroom isn't that outstanding to them. It's just, that is standard. That's a part of the community, right? You have female, male teachers, everybody's pitching in. Versus in the States, black men make up less than 2%, I believe, of the teaching force. So when I asked, they were kind of taken back, like, what's the big deal? And again, I have to realize I'm in a different cultural context. Everyone, when I say everyone, I saw young women, old women, young men, old men, middle-aged folks in that school, right? They were all community members, all supporting each other, whether you have the lunch lady, the lady who comes around and collects the money, because some schools pay on a daily basis, the students pay on a daily basis. You just saw a lot of different faces, but the focus was on the kids, and the kids were so respectful to their adults, right? I walked into a classroom, all the classrooms I saw yesterday at this public school, bare minimum 40 kids. The biggest class, I think, was 50. It seemed like it was 50 kids. And I'm talking every part of that room was packed. And they listened, they participated, they were jumping out their seats just to, raise their hand and answer questions. It was beautiful. And then the teacher would say, let's get up and dance. Let's get up and praise our classmates. Let's get up and sing for our visitors. Now, sure, some of that was performative because we were these visitors, and that can be a little disruptive to a classroom environment. But we got to see some of it's not about any individual strategy. It was a collection of different forces, culture, strategies, where you got to see all smiles, all day smiles, laughter, joy. And they really enjoyed learning. They learning how to read, learning how to, we were in a technical class, we're learning how to use a hammer. And some of the questions from my colleagues, and for me as well, if you were someone listening to our questions, you would think that we didn't have community, or our kids are a different type of challenge than the students here. And again, I don't want to get into that comparing and saying, be more like these kids. If anything, I just want to try to remind myself, what can I do to make my kids feel connected to the classroom, me, the education system? Because as I've had to remind some of my colleagues and myself, that a lot of distrust and mistrust has been developed in our school system because of the way education has been enacted on black and brown bodies. So of course, our kids don't have the same buy-in. Of course, our kids want to be educated and smart, but they do not want to be punished, penalized, ostracized while being in classrooms. Versus here, the students don't have much in terms of material resources, but the teachers get after it. They galvanize those young people. Those young people rally around their teacher, and the learning is just really exciting. And when I say exciting, I don't just mean, exciting to watch, but the kids are really, really engaged, and the kids are really, really focused on the instruction. And I think when I say built into the values, there are posters on some walls that said, honor your parents, honor yourself, honor your school, reading is cool. Just all these little indicators and reminders of how important it is your education is, and even more important, how important it is to be a good person. That was really emphasized at both schools. And I think implicitly we're trying to teach our young people in America how to be good, kind, moral people. However, we do have to battle how certain antisocial behaviors and quote unquote poor behaviors are incentivized, perpetuated, produced via social media. During break, we've observed a couple of classrooms and all the kids sing a welcome song. All the kids walked up and shook my hand. We go outside for break. A flood of kids come to shake my hand, hug me. They want to hold my hair, because everyone has short hair. The girls, the boys, everybody has short hair, they have pretty much fades. And they came up to me, Mister, shaking my hand. And they surrounded all of us, all my colleagues, we got surrounded. And again, because we were visitors and we're from a different country, it's interesting. But as I sat there shaking hands and smiling at the kids, I felt this enormous sense of gratitude, peace, and just I've never felt burnt out in education. Like, there are hard days, but being around those young people, it makes you realize just how important your contributions are to their life, right? Without sounding not from an egotistical point of view, but just doing right by the kids, because that shows up. And granted, again, these are little kids in a different country, different culture, different context. But the way they ran up to me, again, I come back to the ideas of familiarity, family. It felt like we had known each other in some way, but at the same time, there was that disconnect of just, we grew up differently. But we still share the same smile, we share the same laughter, we share the same skin tone, we're shaking hands. It was just a real dope moment for connection. So more videos to come. Sorry that went long, but there's a lot to process, all right? Peace. I'm D. White. Please hit subscribe. I'm just one black male educator to give you my thoughts. Peace. Hey, it's D. White, founder of JustBlackThoughts.com. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow me at The Other English Teacher on Instagram and YouTube. Peace.